Hello, little cat. What is Zephyr doing to you? Zephyr is being mean to little cat. Hey, Bynx. I do want. There's a German word. I learned this on Reddit this week or something, that there's a German word for I have been visited enough. I do feel that I have been visited enough, and I need like 7 minutes to become less visited, and then I'm good to go. I'm really looking forward to that, but let me sit with my thoughts for a second. Lorcana. I've definitely heard of Lorcana. I have friends who have been into it. It was like hard to find product for that or something, wasn't it? We also read that post and Germans were asking what the word was in the top responses. Yeah, I mean, you know, Reddit saying something doesn't mean it's true. If only it did. Actually, some of the things I've read on Reddit I would prefer not to be true, I guess. I'll be good to go at 5, Bynx. I'm looking forward to it. My massage guy is traveling internationally for the holidays, which I think is very inconsiderate of him. I could go for a massage. But he sent me a Merry Christmas from Istanbul, and he doesn't even celebrate Christmas. What a sweetheart. Am I right? Such a sweetheart. Is he more of a Toyotathon guy? Well, the reason he's in Istanbul is that he was visiting Mecca. So I don't know. Do they do Toyotathon there? I don't think that's what they do there. That is not my understanding of why people visit Mecca. Istanbul, not Constantinople. Bynx, if you wanna, in my Discord, there's a voice channel, join this and I drag you in. If you jump in there, I will drag you in and we can start chatting. Discord.gg/Jorbs is the Discord link if you need it. So many people are so excited about games. Isn't that cool? That sat with me talking with Mutta, that his big message that he wants to convey as a streamer is, if you're not having fun, take a break. These games are meant to be fun. I don't think that's an outrageous claim. Friend of the trees. But he also said I had to be, like, accountable. I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't taken a break from my physical body yet. My physical body's okay. Break yourself upon my body. Yeah, I'm more worried about my brain right now. As evidenced by me entering Bane posting, I guess. Can I, I hope I can remove those debuffs. Should be good. I just need to find an attack somewhere. Do I have attacks anymore? Oh. Yeah, now we're good. Hey, Bynx, how are you?
Jorbs?
How's your day going?
How are you doing? Wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's been a long day and a long few days for you, huh?
Yeah, but it's been good. I've never quite done something. So I did a charity week once, like 4 years ago or something, where I had different Slay the Spire players on, but it was like one per day, and we were mostly focused on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing where I'm having people on who don't necessarily play Spire and we're not focused exclusively on the game is just like wild. I'm learning so much stuff. I am not playing Slay the Spire very well, but that's okay. That's fine. That's not the goal.
Yeah, I've been listening all day and like hearing about Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and speed running and all these different things. It's cool. It seems like you're a very curious person. You like to learn about stuff like that. Which
Absolutely.
I think is awesome.
I think that most strategy games are at least a little bit the same game.
Mm-hmm.
If you've played one strategy game, it's not like you've played them all, but you probably have some idea about what the other ones are like. And so a lot of the time when I'm talking to someone about a strategy game I haven't played before, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I've played games like that before. So that's always fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learning about, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm kind of similar to you in that like letting people talk about their passions is like it's like one of my favorite things about like going and meeting new people or going to like let's say family parties and stuff like that. Just having the chance to like have people, because I feel like when people talk about things that they're passionate about or they spend a lot of time on, and you're a good listener and can ask good questions, you could just kind of get them. It helps them get comfortable talking to you, and it's been just something I guess I've kind of learned over the years of like. I feel like so many people just really like to talk and don't like to listen as much, but if you can, I feel like I get the most out of conversations when I'm really just having like in-depth, asking people good questions about what they do and something that I don't know about, and just kind of like really like learning and being interested in it.
Yep, that's how input goes in to your brain. If you're the one talking, all you can really do is tell people stuff you already know.
It's with Slay the Spire, and you've obviously, I actually used to watch you back in like the beta days for it, because I was really into it when the beta it might have been right after the beta days, but it's so interesting that you've just been able to play this game for so long. Like, I feel like longevity in a game, I guess it's pretty easy with Slay the Spire because the balance, and I think it's one of the like best designed games of all time. But being able to have this much longevity and enjoying a game is something that's really special.
Agree. 100%. It keeps on changing for me too. I keep on realizing new things and having success doing something different from anything I've ever done before, and I don't feel like that's about to stop either. It's a very difficult game. And as much as I would like to say that I'm good at it, there are also so many ways that I'm repeatedly reminded that I'm also bad at it every time I play. So.
Well, it's like it's like anything, right? The more you learn about something, the more you realize that you don't know, or the more you like get open to the potential of like what can be with it, right?
Which is super fun.
I've played a lot of Slay the Spire in my day, but I definitely do it from a much more casual angle. I very rarely go above like Ascension like 5 or 6, and it's just kind of like my you know, like I finish stream and I'm like sitting down and like watching a movie I've already seen, and I like played through like an Ascension 2 run on my phone or something like that. It's a very fun game to enjoy in a lot of different ways, I feel.
How do you feel about the daily runs?
I never really mess with them too much. I think I just it's like a comfy game for me. So like daily runs kind of add a lot of chaos to it. So I would say that the way I enjoy it is just kind of, you know, being comfy, and because now that I play it like, you know, one run a week as opposed to, you know, I think I put maybe 400 hours into it the first couple of years that I played it. Just having those comfy runs of like, oh, it's a poison run where we just have tons and tons of poison stuff and skull and all these things. Do you do the dailies much, or do you more just
I also don't like them because of the chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like I've played Slay the Spire very seriously for like 2 or 3 years. But I played it extremely seriously before then, so like my level of playing pretty casually is very high, which is, it is what it is, you know? But yeah, I like the familiarity of Ascension 20 for the most part. And
do you always go for the heart, or do you ever skip heart? 100% of the time. I beat the heart exactly one time. It's hard, man. You got so much HP.
Always go to the heart. I never boss relic swap. It's just like the way that I enjoy playing the game, so this is the way I play the game.
Boss relic swap is when you get offered at the beginning to swap your starting relic for a boss relic.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you think that's the best one to get most of the time?
Well, I don't really know because I don't do it. I just found that some of them are really strong. So I don't know if it's like always good. I wouldn't say there's always good, but I couldn't even tell you how often it's good really. But what I found was that enough of the time I was just getting a really strong boss relic, and it felt like I was on autopilot for the next hour and a half until I'd won the run. And I didn't want that. I wanted to have some interesting decision making. That's what I signed up for. I think Slay the Spire has the best like interface basically for playing a strategy game out of all the strategy games. And I think all the strategy games are pretty similar. Some differences, but largely the same game. And so a lot of why I like playing Slay the Spire is that I like making those decisions, and it is the way to put myself in that decision-making environment with the least friction possible. So I can just be like, decision-making.
Sure. That's really interesting. You know, it's funny. I remember, so in Ascension 20, because I'm very unaware, are all the patterns set that the enemies do? I think I heard someone say that earlier on the stream, right? Or maybe
there's some 50-50s and like 33 splits and stuff like that. You'd get familiar with stuff, but not enough that, like Runic Dome, for example, makes it so you can't see. You never get to a point where Runic Dome has no downside. There's always some spots where you want to know what an enemy could be doing.
Hilariously, that's kind of what I was mentioning, because I remember I used to do that all the time too, the boss relic swap, but then one time I got Runic Dome. I think I got Runic Dome like 2 out of 3 times, and as someone who just has no idea what they're going to do because I play it so casually, you just get stomped unless you get like a crazy combo where you just put on a bunch of armor and don't care. So that's interesting. Where would you consider that like a pretty big low roll for that first one?
I suspect Runic Dome is somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
But I don't know
energy in
for
Act 1 is extra energy in Act 1 is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and there are ways that you can build your deck where you don't need to know what the enemy's doing that much, because you just do the same thing every turn. And so once you're more familiar with the game and can identify how to get into one of those strategies, you can minimize the downside a lot.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it was just funny that you mentioned Runic Dome, because that's kind of where I was going with it. It's just I guess if you don't really know what the enemies are going to do, and you're just kind of I consider myself like a golden retriever a lot of times when I play games, where I just kind of like, I'm just running forward and just figuring out what happens next. Like I think a little bit like higher level, but yeah, with that with that kind of way of playing a game like a strategy game like Slay the Spire, having no idea what your opponent is going to do is a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yes, one of the reasons that I don't like Boss Relic Swap is also that sometimes you just get a relic that isn't very fun to play with. Like, I don't like Choker very much, because for me a lot of the fun of a run is getting to a point where you can play more than 6 cards a turn. And
Or like a few dozen.
yeah. And one of the things that I've been finding more and more as I play the game is I'm getting better and better at building decks which really abuse card spam. But if you get Choker on floor 0, you just don't get to do that the entire run. But thanks so much for the raid!
Oh yeah, let's go Raiders.
Welcome in, everyone. I'm playing some Slay the Spire and chatting to Bynx about Marvel Snap, although I haven't asked a question yet. So far we're still talking about Slay the Spire.
Just chit-chatting. I do think, I think that you have the name wrong on the screen.
Oh yes, I do. Didn't update it. You are right. And... no, that's right. Alright, sorry about that.
All good, but yeah, I was. I will be honest with you, George. I was very nervous reaching out to you, but you were incredibly kind. I feel like most times I do. You know, I'm very new to the content creator space and everything like that. Most of the times I reach out, everyone's been like insanely nice, but I do still get insanely nervous. So I just want to say thank you for being so cool about me reaching out and being interested in chatting with me, even though we've never really connected before. It's really exciting to be able to be on here and to help support a good cause and get to chat with you.
100%. Everybody, not everybody, the vast majority of people in content creation are just really chill people and also very willing to go out of their way to help you out if you need something or want to connect on something. This is something that I've found a lot. Muddo, thanks so much for the $100 donation. The support Free to Love as well. That is very kind. Thank you. Muddo was on the channel with me yesterday to talk about Trackmania, which is an awesome game, which he is awesome at. So that was really fun too. Yeah, so I published a book earlier this year in March, and for that book I reached out to other creators to interview people, and I got to a point where the interview format was pretty standard. It would be like an hour to an hour and a half long conversation. A few times people just could not be contained within an hour, like they were too jubilant and excited to talk. I'm very good friends with some of those people now. But I was overwhelmed by how many people were interested in chatting. My book is about like abuse and manipulation and shitty stuff that goes on in the back end of the industry and stuff. So it's not like a pleasant conversation to have, but so many people were willing to have that conversation and willing to be extremely personable and vulnerable with me. And you know, I think ultimately we're in this career because we like sharing ourselves with the world, and when somebody reaches out and says that love for that to happen, generally we're all down. Yeah,
I'm 65 pages into the book currently. I think it's wonderful and very pertinent, which I think is really cool. If anyone especially is you know, just doing any content creation or you know, big or small, I would absolutely recommend it. It's really cool because I feel like there's very few deep dives of people who actually have experience and understanding in the industry and who've actually been through it with content creation. I feel like it's a really small niche, and like, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of the other books that you might find in the space just like don't come off as genuine, I would guess. But I've really enjoyed it. You know, like I said, I've kind of or like I mentioned when I reached out to you, I had like no following like 18 months ago, and I've kind of you know, blown up to be able to be full time now, and just reading some of your experiences like early on with you know, working with different orgs and people that you've met, and your view of you know, how people, the different types of people in the industry, people who are actually in it because they care about content creation, and people who are just in it because, you know, they're venture capitalists and they're trying to find a way to be at a cash grab or different things like that. It's really interesting. I'm excited to continue on with it. It's really good.
Sure. And the story of someone who has started content creation like a year and a half ago and succeeded is interesting to a lot of people too. So I'm interested in how that happened for you. It's been a long time since I like came up in the streaming space, as it were. So I remember what I did, but it's a different world out there now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the biggest thing is like you kind of have to make it. You know, you have to get lucky. I think in content creation, at the end of the day, I think that there are examples of people who can, who've kind of brute forced their way in like you know the nicest way of saying that possible, just with sheer work. But I do think, you know, it's all about getting lucky, but putting yourself in a position to be lucky, which is I think a really big thing in the space. So like, yeah, as far as like Twitch and YouTube, how I got involved in it, do you know Northern Lion?
I don't think I've ever like collaborated with him on anything, but I certainly know him. We know a lot of the same people too and stuff. Yeah, we're in the same
I know
sort of corner of the internet.
He has put out, I think, about 2,000 Slay the Spire videos over the years. I know he was insanely involved. And I'm sure some people in your community have kind of have come from Northern Lion, as he was someone who really I think helped elevate Slay the Spire in its early days, which I think was awesome, because I think the game deserves every bit of sales it's ever had and everything like that. But yeah, I got really into him about like a decade ago when I was finishing college, and it was funny. I had no idea about Twitch or YouTube or watching people play games. I probably like heard of it and thought it was weird, and then I got a new 3DS, like the newer one, and it had one of the only games that was like an exclusive new 3DS game was Binding of Isaac, and then I just Googled Binding of Isaac and I saw a Northern Lion video, and then I was just like, oh, this is really fun to watch this dude. And then like over like 2 years, I just started getting like really into watching streams and watching YouTube videos, and I extended into like other games that I really liked. And Twitch and YouTube really became just kind of like a nice like comfort thing for me, like a really fun thing to watch while I'm gaming and watching someone else game. And just a lot of like cool things like that. And it was something that was like a part of my life, but never really something I got too much more into. And then in 2020, you know, with quarantine happening and everything like that, I was living alone, and it was hard, you know, not really having many creative outlets and many ways to talk to people. I joke that I think I talked to my dog more than any other human over the course of like a few months, which was kind of making me a bit stir crazy singing songs to him.
I remember a moment where I thought about it for a second, and I thought I probably saw human beings more often on Twitter or Instagram in pictures, which are like usually like filtered, or at least like them looking really good, you know, than I did in real life. Like I would see people out the window of my apartment, and when I went to the grocery store, and when I went on a walk, but I just wasn't seeing other human beings very much, and it was messing with my brain. The pandemic was hard. It was hard for a lot of us.
Hard for a lot of people, yeah. I mean, I was pretty lucky where my job was pretty easy to work from home, so I didn't have too much of the, I guess, really like fall financially from it. So I was very fortunate in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that I think that you know, a lot of people and you know, I think organizations like Free to Love, to you know, bring it back to the charity we're trying to highlight today, is just caring about mental health and really brought that into the spotlight for a lot of people. Of you know, it's important to find active ways to care about yourself, and you know, active ways to take care of your mind when you know, things aren't going exactly how you want it to.
Maya has told me I have to have self-accountability, which is a foreign concept to me, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to try to do him proud. Also, by the way, did people just say he got the world record just now? That's super hype. Super hype. Congrats to Mata, if that is true. He's been going for a world record on a track for...
That's awesome.
I don't know how long he's been hunting it, but for at least a few days.
That's so awesome. I really love to I really like to hear that. That's great. We love a world record.
Yeah.
I wish Trackmania is never something I got super into. I did watch some of it, but racing games has always been, as a gamer, I feel like get into games and I like understand them and I do well with them very, very quickly. And then anytime there's a racing game, like Mario Kart is the only thing like my casual friends can just crush me in. And any kind of racing game, it's just like my brain just doesn't work. I'm just bashing into walls and running all over the place. So I feel like it's a game that I would like. Games like that or racing games I would enjoy, but it's just I feel like every gamer has like one of those like subsections of games where it just doesn't click with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes. But that's okay, because games are for having fun. You don't have to be good at them. If you're having fun smashing into the wall, then you're doing better than someone who isn't having fun, like setting a world record. Like that's just how games work. Yeah.
But yeah, the way that I tried to do an outlet was through the pandemic was starting to stream and starting to like make YouTube videos, and it started really small. One of my friends, Gasu, is actually here supporting in chat. We were doing like super mega baseball together, where we'd stream together and play to 2 or 3 people, and I was just recording like YouTube videos for like random games, like I was playing like Spelunky and Wizard of Legend and all these like random little roguelites.
Wizard of Legend I loved.
Did you really?
I got into speedrunning Wizard of Legend actually.
Really?
I forgot. That's probably prior to Celeste. I think that was the most recent game that I was like, I'm going to try to play this fast. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I loved Wizard of Legend. People always ask me what my favorite roguelite is, and I say that usually, and a lot of them are like, what is that? And because I feel like it never really got too much into the light, but oh man, dude, the fast pace of that game, and like
it's so fast.
And I would do randomizers every time, so I'd just like have like random arcana like on, then you just kind of have to like figure it out. Man, I love that game. I gotta jump on and play that game again sometime soon.
I think there's a second one.
You know,
Either
it is
already
it's
or
not by
soon?
the same people.
Oh, okay.
And it's a
That is
completely different art
Okay.
style. I don't know. It's not out yet. I'm keeping my eye on it. I'll definitely give it a try, but I don't know. It seems weird, like watching like the trailer and everything like that. It just seemed like it didn't seem like it was gonna hit the same itch, but I hope it does. But yeah, I mean, that was just kind of like a creative outlet that I tried to have, even though I was talking to no one for the most part, as most people do starting content creation, where it's just maybe one of our friends or something who would show up and watch, or a random lurker that would show up. It was like a really good outlet to be able to talk and speak our mind and have a stream of consciousness. And it was just it was something that I got into purely as a hobby, and just something to kind of get my mind off of it. So I did that for, I think it was about 2.5 years. Getting to, I think I had like, I must have put out like 200 YouTube videos, and streamed several hundred times, and just not really making any progress or anything like that. But it wasn't really about that. Obviously like growing would be nice, but it was always something to do. But then in May of last year, the trailer for Marvel Snap came out. And I don't know, did you play much Hearthstone, or are you more just kind of like familiar with it?
I played a little free-to-play when it came out. I was a Magic the Gathering player, and it was a big hype in that scene. I was on a team that was, like, had a lot of the known Hearthstone players on it, like Slissa and Alistraza and Nicolina and Collins and Shady Bunny. So I have talked to lots of people who are very good at Hearthstone, and even like collabed with them.
F2K, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I know a decent amount about Hearthstone, but I would not say that I know what the cards do or that I'm good at it or anything. Yeah.
So Ben Brode is he was, I think, the game designer of Hearthstone, and he was like really big on that team. And then he left after a while, and he put out like a lot of really interesting videos, and he seemed like a really amicable, very, very, very just cool dude in general. And he left Hearthstone and to start his own company, and it took him 4 years to actually come out with what they're actually doing. There was like little bits and teasers.
Did he make Marvel Snap?
He did, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that connection. Huh.
So that's what kind of like hooked me onto it. Is like, I saw a trailer for this new Ben Brode game. It's a Marvel game. I enjoy Marvel and a lot of the movies and everything like that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then a beta came out, and I jumped on the beta. And I started doing content for it, like the very first day of beta. I remember putting out a putting out a tweet to my 60 to Twitter followers at that point, saying like, "Hey, would you guys be interested in watching this game?" And one person said yes, so of course I did. So I started streaming and making content for it, and like I said, you have to get lucky, but you have to put yourself in the position to be lucky, right? So I'd done this 2.5 years of just talking to no one on stream and not really having a chat, so I kind of felt like I got pretty entertaining, and I learned some video editing to be able to make very simple, straightforward YouTube videos. So I was kind of the very first person who day one started putting out YouTube videos very, very quickly about the early cards and decks and everything like that. And then out of nowhere, videos started getting 100x the views they would get. Instead of getting 4 or 5, they'd get 400 or 500. And it was something that I felt like I really loved the game. So do you? I know that you said that you're kind of familiar with Marvel Snap, but do you know much about like the game and how it works in general?
I know that there are lanes, I think, and that's about it. I really don't know much.
Fair. So what I really love about Marvel Snap is that what I've always found is that I like kind of small games that don't take very long. So like Hearthstone, sometimes the quick games can take 5-10 minutes, but sometimes you get stuck in these like control mirrors that take a half hour to 40 minutes, right? And a game of Slay the Spire, even the fastest people in the world can do it in like 5 minutes, but sometimes they can take a half hour, a whole hour, multiple hours to do. I think a half hour is actually probably really fast even.
Yep.
But what I've always liked is games like Rocket League, which is a game that I really love, where it's like, there's this 5-minute game. It's a 5-minute game experience. You get done with that game, you can queue up your next one. So if you have a really terrible game or it's bad, then you can jump over and do something else. Or, I played Pokemon Unite a lot, actually, right before Marvel Snap, which was like a MOBA, like a League of Legends or a Dota 2, but completely trimmed down and just exactly 10 minutes every single game. Just super, super fast paced. So, if you get destroyed, you can retreat at 5 minutes and then just go on to the next one. But you can still get a lot. So I've always liked that bite-sized game. And that's really what Marvel Snap is. A game of Marvel Snap takes... it can take as little as 30 seconds if someone, snaps and or someone retreats on like turn 1, which can happen. And it also... it's a 6-turn game. It can be a 7-turn game. One card in the game or one location in the game will extend it to 7. But at max, you're looking at like a 6 or 7 minute game. So that's what really drew me to it, is that it's something that you can do, when you go to the bathroom, or like if you're just sitting down on the bus and you have like a 8-minute bus ride. You can queue up a game of Marvel Snap and play it. So
I've been playing chess for that recently.
Yeah,
I also appreciate that
in
a
a
game.
5 minutes? 3 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes on the bus works pretty well for me. Sometimes I got into time scramble, and if they're on PC and I'm on phone, I'm dead. But that's fine. I'm not really caring whether I win or not that much.
Sure, it's just about going through the experience. Yeah. Chess is amazing, man. Chess. How the heck did they figure out chess so long ago to just be this beautiful, perfect game? I'll never understand. It's wonderful. But so I really like that aspect of it. One thing that you would really like about it is that there's a snapping mechanic. And what that means is that unlike other card games, you don't get a win or a loss at the end of the game. You bet a certain amount of cubes over the game. So it starts at 1, and each person during the course of the game has the chance to double the stakes of the game. So it's called snapping. And then the game, your opponent has to choose to retreat or stay in that game. And then at the end of that turn, the cubes go to double. They go to 2. And then your opponent can snap that game. And then you can choose to retreat or stay in. And then the cubes go to 4. And then if the game resolves and it goes through turn 6 with no one retreating, it doubles again. So it can go from 1 cube all the way up to 8 cubes. So it kind of has a lot of like that poker mechanic to it of, not really... just like, it's not just who can win this game, it's can you use proper timings of your snap to maximize the amount of game that you get for every game, because there's decks that can have a 44% win rate but be some of the strongest decks in the game because you surprise people and get really big wins and you win really big, but then you can just kind of like retreat and take like 1 or 2 cube losses in it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I did not know about that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason that the game is why I love it so much, is because there's that kind of added layer to to a card game like that, where there's just like this extra level of strategy while maintaining really a simple level. And then yeah, you mentioned there's lanes, so there's 3 different locations that come up every single game, and each location either affects that lane or can affect the game in different ways. So there's some level of randomness to the game. So, you know, they could be as simple as everything played here gets +1 power, or it can be, you know, like cards cost less, so both you and your opponent can play cards for cheaper. So there's that level of just having a bit of randomness and a bit of difference in every single game, because every game you have to play to location. Some locations you can only play on certain turns onto it. So there's that level of a bit of like randomness and RNG that you can kind of take advantage of it, and adds a wrinkle to the game as well. So it's this very, very, very small, simple game, but it has all these layers of added complexity that could be really, really cool to it. So that's kind of why I fell in love with it, and I think that passion really showed in what I was doing with the game, because, you know, there was a couple other creators and stuff, but I was, you know, I rose pretty fast as one of the first people was really, you know, putting in a lot of work and getting more cards. So like, you know, as your collection level rises, you get access to more and more unique and different cards. So just adding, you know, these different layers to it, and going up. And I was one of the first people to really like be continuously exploring it for people who are interested in the beta, which is a lot of fun.
Sure.
And yeah, so I was still working a job back then. I worked in sales for quite a while. I was working in tech sales for like digital marketing, and then I ended up moving and working at a third-party logistics company, helping like e-commerce companies hold their goods and ship them out, and working in sales with that. And it was pretty hard because, you know, I was putting in so much work to this, because I was seeing, you know, my input was finally getting a lot of output and response with people, and I was seeing growth. And then so that was like May through August. I was just working really hard, you know, working my full-time job and then doing that. And then I got laid off literally out of nowhere from work at the end of August last year.
Cool. So you had the moment. Am I gonna do this for real?
Yeah. It was first of all, they would, because there was a lot of tech layoffs around that time, and there was whisperings of it, but everyone was like, "No, we're totally fine." And then one day they just emailed, you know, 30, I think it was 33% of the company, and then just out of nowhere, just done.
Grief.
And yeah, I was very fortunate that my company actually, you know, with their layoffs, they took care of people really well. I was compensated very, very well for leaving, and you know, I hadn't been doing too much, so I had kind of that time. Yeah, and it was just like you said, it was the moment of, okay, well, I'm gonna give myself 6 months, and at 6 months, I'm gonna see, is this something that's actually sustainable and something that I can do, or do I have to go back and get another job? Because like, even if I didn't make another dime, I could get through these next 6 months and be okay with things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then I just, you know, kind of went all in and started streaming like I was streaming full time and putting up more YouTube videos. The game had its full release in October of that year, and then it went from kind of this niche community who was following the beta to they had a huge marketing run with it, and just got a bunch of people on board. And it became something that was immediately like pretty sustainable through YouTube and Twitch and everything like that, just because the audience had kind of, you know, 10x'd overnight, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah, I had a really weird experience with that, where I was still streaming as a hobby when my channel blew up with XCOM. I had been working on an XCOM mod, and then it released, and I wanted to show it off to people, and my channel blew up. And so like I made the flip to streaming full-time, like already knowing that I was basically making more money than I needed already to get through the year. And I have a great appreciation for the fact that I got to make the switch that way, because like not everybody does 100%. And
yeah, it's hard. It's a fickle industry. You know, it's hard to have longevity in it. And it's it's always scary because like right now I guess I'm a little concerned because I'm kind of everything is all in on this one game. I'm trying to slowly find ways to branch off and do other things, but you know you never know. Like there was news that the publisher Newverse, which is like part of ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, just got completely shut down like a few weeks ago, and everyone was just kind of panicking, like, "Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?" It doesn't seem like there's anything really that's going to happen with it. It's probably going to get sold off or something like that. And
This is the Marvel Snap publisher?
yeah, the Marvel Snap publisher. But you know, Second Dinner, which is the team that developed it, came out and said, you know, we're not going anywhere, and they're going to find something else, or the company might get sold, or the company might branch off, or something like that. But you know, it's just always weird in like an industry like this, where you know you could get your Twitch banned, or you can get your YouTube banned, and then like out of nowhere you go into panic mode, and you hear all these like weird horror stories about you know, people who have like weird things that happen on their YouTube that like that definitely didn't happen, but there's just you know, there's very few avenues.
Do you know the story of Mixer?
I do
right
know the
before
story of
you
Mixer.
started. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. I didn't really
the
know
people
anybody who streamed
had
on
contracts
Mixer. Yeah,
made out like bandits, which is
yeah.
insane.
Definitely did.
And an insane situation for them to go to somewhere, take this big risk to go to somewhere, and then like it's scared that it's closing, but then it's like, oh, you just get all the money that you were going to make over the next 5 years, and you can immediately go back. Right.
God, yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird, like watching you know, things happen in different areas in the space, trying to open up and everything like that. Someone in the chat said it was Mixer, the one by the casino company. No, that's Kick, which is like the new one that's trying to be kind of disruptive and signing a lot of people.
Yeah, I have no idea what to think about Kick.
I think it's I don't know. My opinion on it is I think it's good for the industry. There's always good for an industry to have competition, right? I don't think I would ever support Kick or do anything on Kick because of how it's backed. But it's hard. It's hard to, you know, there's a lot of people who are very judgy of people who go over to there or try and make it over there or take a deal with them, and it's like, I guess like being in the industry now, it's like it's hard to blame them because, you know, when you're getting told like, hey, I have this contract that you can have that gives you like this guaranteed livelihood for X amount of time, it's something that's very, very rare in the industry. So it's hard to say no to that.
That's there was a point in my streaming career where I was like, well, I'm like really making good money here. And then I looked at what I was doing, because I had taken some stuff like that. Like I was doing some behaviors that were because I was worried that I wouldn't be able to make it in streaming. And I realized I didn't like them. And so there was definitely like a year or so of my streaming career where I was just like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't think I was a bad person. It's just like, as a content creator, a lot of the stuff you don't really feel like you even have agency over. Like the idea of not running ads on my YouTube, for example. I don't really like running ads on my YouTube, but it was always just like, well, you have to do that. That's how your YouTube makes money. And I eventually turned them off as much as I could. I think they're turned on again. I don't know. YouTube ads are weird.
Yeah, they took away a bunch of options because you used to be able to say like, oh, I want to do this kind of ad, this kind of ad. I want to do it this way.
I had exclusively pre-rolls. I was okay with exclusively pre-rolls, and then all of a sudden that just kind of wasn't a thing anymore.
All or nothing. Yeah. I would get rid of all non-skippable ads because I don't know, I would just always get very annoyed whenever I would watch a non-skippable ad, and I was looking at it and it was costing me, I don't know, like 10% of ad revenue when I switched off of it. So I was like, I'm okay with that. You know, maybe it keeps some people along, you know, but yeah, they took away all of the agency of it. It's all or nothing and exactly how we want it or not. And now it's like, yeah, well, you know, it's kind of just a part of being in the industry. You can't, like, what am I going to say? No, like, I don't know.
Yup. It always feels like that thought experiment where you can press a button to make somebody else in the world suffer pain, but you get paid like $5. That's always what it feels like whenever I click on put ads on this YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
What a great feeling.
It's weird. It's weird for sure. Do you think a lot about one thing I've had to really wrap my head around with going from having 2 to 3 people watching me to I do dual streaming now on YouTube and Twitch, and I usually get around 1,000 between the two. Do you ever think about like how many people that is, like if they were in the room with you?
Well, I can't really comprehend it. I've done some live events where I was like, yeah, I think like maybe 20 people will show up. I did a book reading recently. It was like maybe 20 people will show up, and then like I think probably like 100 plus people showed up, and like the room was full when I got there 15 minutes before it started, and then everyone was like standing and then getting turned away. So
Wow.
yeah, I do not appreciate the size of my audience, like intellectually, I don't think, or probably really emotionally either. I know that I don't appreciate it intellectually. I couldn't really say if I do emotionally or not, because I don't know what it's meant to feel like to have, 1,000 people watching you do something. What is there something that's meant to feel like? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like humans are meant to have that many people around them, right? Like like from a just like a primal sense, like having that many people like looking at you is very funky, and it's always so interesting because it's a very introverted and extroverted thing at the same time, right? Because me and you, we're both sitting by ourselves in a room, right? But it's getting to so many people, and it's signal boosting, and then maybe that stream like goes onto YouTube and has 10 times how many people who are watching it live watch it afterwards, and it's just it's a very funny thing that I've always thought about. It's like like there's 1,000 people watching the stream right now. Like that would fill like a damn big theater, and it's very interesting to think about different things like that. Yeah, I try not to though. Yeah, in the same way. I feel like you kind of have to not, or at least not I guess visualize it exactly.
I don't really know what I do about it anymore. For me, it was weird with dating. Started dating again recently and doing like online dating where I was meeting people who like really didn't know anything about me and trying to explain what I did, and because then you're exposed to somebody else deciding what they think about it, which is a whole different weird thing. And then you have to decide whether you're okay with what they think about it. Like I had to like decide, am I okay with like talking about someone I'm dating to my audience? I don't know. Like, what does that even mean? I had a while as a streamer where I worried about my safety. Like I was worried about getting recognized near where I lived and stuff like that. Because like conceptually that could be bad. But what's like the chance that something like that happens and is bad? I don't really know. Some number.
Yeah, some number. It exists for sure. I mean, every interaction I've had with people in real life has been overwhelmingly positive, and
yeah,
just
me too.
been like incredibly nice and cordial. But yeah, it's always that kind of like lingering thing in the back of your mind if something like that does happen, or if someone you rub the wrong way is yeah, I don't know. It's certainly interesting to think about. I think that yeah, I try and be as safe as I can. You can find my name out there, but I don't really use my full name with anything that I do. And people know what city I live in, but they don't know. I never give up any specifics or talk about any like restaurant or things that I go to that's really near me, just to be safe. But yeah, I think both of us are also. I think both of us are also very privileged being men in this space, because I feel like women have a much worse time dealing with things like that, which is something that is just, I don't know, tough to deal with, and it's always hard hearing female creators that I know in the space hearing their side of it, which seems a lot different, and hopefully over time that continues to get better little by little. I guess that's the hope for most people.
Yes, one of the reasons I wrote the book that I wrote was that I had an experience which was already sort of stressful for me, and I was trying to make sense of it, and I went to my manager, who was a woman working in the space, and she was present for a lot of the events and was like, what was this stuff like for you? And holy shit, it was a lot worse for her. And I just didn't really even know, even working with her the entire time, like, what's she going to do? Like,
yeah,
bring it up a whole lot? I don't know.
Yeah, what can you do, right? It's sad and too taboo, probably in many ways, which is tough. It's not great. Yeah, like I said, I'm at the beginning of your book, and I think I saw a little bit of it so far, but I know it delves a lot deeper into it later. So, yeah, I guess I guess with the content creation, I did have a couple things I wanted to just kind of like, I guess, hear your opinion on it. Well, like, just what are your overall thoughts on like longevity in content creation, and like, what do you think that you've done to like be able to move to the point where now, like, basically, you know, I see you streaming like a lot of different games, and I'm sure like so many people have come to you and started watching you because of like Slay the Spire or you know, other things that you're very well known for. What do you think are some of the things that you adjusted, I guess, through the middle of your career with trying to find longevity and being able to get to the point where you know, people are don't just see you as the Slay the Spire guy, but are you know, very open to watching whatever you want to play and watching you for you?
I feel like people still see me as the Slay the Spire guy. A lot of people do.
It's fair.
There's no easy answer. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a question a lot of people want there to be an easy answer to.
Mm-hmm.
But the answer is that you just have to do other things too. Yeah. Hopefully you can find a way for that to be fun for you and for the people who are watching you. So I just set a goal at the beginning of last year that I didn't want to play as much Spire, so I usually was spending 70% of my time on stream on Spire, and I flipped it to 30% this year. Not entirely on purpose or anything, that's just like how the number ended up being. And I noticed I was having a lot of fun. Explored what it was like to stream other games, and it actually like kind of renewed my interest in Spire. Was one thing that I noticed. I noticed that the reason that I had streamed a lot of Spire was that I loved the hell out of this game. So one of the things that I got out of that was like, kind of like to actually stream more Spire. But now I have like more context about why do I like Spire, etc. Also, a nice thing about Spire, this is a game that runs on my PC and it's single player. So a lot of the reasonable concerns one might have about Marvel Snap going under if the publisher goes under or something like that. And that happens with multiplayer games. Multiplayer games go from... I was really into Storybook Brawl, for example. Storybook Brawl went from being a game you could play to being a game you couldn't play, like, over the course of a month, basically. So that happens on multiplayer games, but it's never going to happen to Slay the Spire. I can just play this game forever if I want, and I might. I was once an XCOM streamer, that's true. I was once known as the XCOM streamer, and the reason that people now know me as the Slay the Spire streamer is that I tried out other games other than XCOM. So, you know, sometimes as you're exploring, you'll find something that really clicks for you and stick to it, like I did when I found Slay the Spire. Other times you'll find games that are really fun for you to play, but aren't as fun to make content for. Like, I feel like games like Baldur's Gate 3, I love playing them, but I don't like making content for them as much. Games like Outer Wilds too, like there are a lot of games where I want the experience to be mine, and having somebody else alongside suggesting things to do or having the experience be theirs It's like fun, but it's not really what I want every day of my life for my job. And then you'll find games that you really like streaming, but nobody likes watching. Which is like, I would love to just stream Orb of Creation every day, probably, but I don't think that would be great for my channel. You know,
what is Orb of Creation?
it is an incremental game. So, you know, idle games, like Universal Paperclips. It's like that, except that you're always doing something. You're always like learning a new spell and working out how to cast it, which sort of feels like a fighting game because you'll learn combinations of spells that make the most stuff, or you're always learning about a new resource and unlocking the ways to generate it as quickly as possible, which feels kind of like a strategy game because you have to understand what makes the resource and work out which resource you can give up to get it right now. Or you're researching something, which feels kind of like a 4X game where you're unlocking new abilities and passives and stuff like that. And it just keeps going. And this takes like... I told my friend yesterday 12 hours and he said it was longer than that. But like maybe like 16 hours or something. Where idle games will be like weeks sometimes. Idle games don't necessarily respect your time. Incremental games tend to respect your time quite a lot more. Where they just... Because you're constantly doing stuff, I guess it's more dev time to make it so constantly doing stuff it takes a long time.
Yeah, I've seen some idle games where like the numbers that are on the screen like are just unfathomable to the human brain. It's just like in the trillions and quadrillions and all that stuff, and it's like, all right. Well,
you eventually switch to scientific notation in Orb of Creation. It's a good time.
I love that. Well, that's good advice. I really appreciate that. It's I completely feel for you on it, wanting games to be your own, and that's something that you know, like when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I've loved Zelda for a really long time, and people are like, oh, are you gonna stream? You're gonna stream? It's like, nope, that one's mine. That one's mine. I'm gonna sit. You know, when I have time, I'm gonna sit down on my couch and shut up and just sit there and be mesmerized by what's happening. You know, it's a game where I don't want to feel like I have the need to be entertaining, and I could just kind of do it for me. And I do. It's actually interesting, like streaming and being a full-time content creator. I've actually found a lot of love for finding new games that I can play outside of stream, and I've kind of had like a different like mindset about them. Like I feel like I've completed more games this year than I have like ever. Like I played all the way through Armored Core 6, and I found like the new Ratchet and Clank game. I played all the way through that, and just finding like these different games that I can like enjoy off stream. I think that definitely is important. I'm happy I kind of caught onto that early, because I do feel like there's people who feel like if they're playing a video game and they're not streaming it, then they're at a loss. And
yeah.
I really try and work my mind to not feel like that, because I think that it can. I think stuff like that can catch up to you, and you start to lose, like you just start to drain the ability to have fun playing games, because it's just like everything turns into work.
Mm-hmm. I have not found that I finish many games, but I certainly play a ton of games off stream. A lot of the time it will be a game that I played on stream, and I'm like, I want to try that by myself without people yelling at me or whatever. I mean, I love you, chat, but sometimes, you know. So, yes, I have a lot of experiences like that where it's more about just like trying it out for a bit on my own, and then it's like, oh, yeah, that was fine. And then I move on.
Yeah, games, I don't know, man, it's a good time to be a gamer right now. There's, plus, like, I don't know, it's so many things, especially if you're like PC gaming, you can find, you know, very cheap, or like games that are free that you can find that it can become a very, you know, hobby that's not something you have to sink a lot of money into, and there's so much variety out there, and you know, you could even go back to games either from your childhood through, you know, emulation or anything like that, and finding all these different ways to play and experience games in a different way nowadays. That I feel like there was a lot of, you know, you don't have to go to GameStop or something to try and find a new used game. You know, there's just a million different ways to download it and get access to it right away.
For sure. And sometimes I'll go back to a game that I played as a kid, and I'm like, wow, this game was just really easy, and I was not good at games as a child. But other times I'll go back to a game that I played as a kid, and be kind of overwhelmed that I ever was able to beat it as a child. Like, that's a really fun experience for me, seeing the difference between different games that I remember, and how they feel to play as an adult.
Oh, 100%. I went back and played like Star Fox 64. And dude, some of the later levels in that get so chaotic and are so hard to beat. I remember I beat it so many times as a kid, and I was a really bad gamer when I was a kid. I was really not good at a lot of games, and like, just like seeing some things like that, and then I went back and played Final Fantasy again as an adult, and I remember I must have put like 30, like 100+ hours as a kid into trying to beat Final Fantasy. And I got to the point that I got stuck at in like 4 hours or something as an adult. It's just, it's so crazy to go back and like, you know, when you can like look things up or like have like an actual like answer as to like what these things are. It's so different. What have there been any games that have like really surprised you this year that you've like picked up and tried, like off stream in particular, or you know, maybe something that you played a little on stream and a little off stream?
I knew I was gonna like Baldur's Gate 3. I did not expect that everybody else would love Baldur's Gate 3 as much as everybody else has loved Baldur's Gate 3. That game, like, really blew up in a huge way. So I was not expecting that.
Do you play it by yourself or with people?
I have played it with people a very small amount. I've mostly played it by myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got a few hours into Baldur's Gate 3, but I definitely want to, I want to go back and do it. I'm really bad with, like, lore in games where you have to read a lot. And
oh, I love
Baldur's Gate 3.
reading.
Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot of that, so that kind of like hindered me a little bit, but it does seem like the writing is really interesting, and from everything I've heard with just how the story can change based on every decision, and like how the like tree of what can actually come from you, like come from like different decisions you make throughout the game. I mean, it seems kind of next level compared to most things.
Yes. Yeah, and so I knew I was gonna love it because I know one of the people who was an initial writer on the project, and
wow.
she's gonna be on the stream later this week, and I just know that I love her shit, and she told me it was good, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna make sure I have 100 hours in my schedule for that game, and, you know, 250 hours later, I'm still not through Act 3.
That's great. Yeah, it seems like a heck of a time sink for sure. Did you play Tears of the Kingdom at all?
No, I did not. I was not a Nintendo kid, so I've never sunk my teeth into the Zelda stuff, really. Just wasn't a game that I grew up on.
Yeah, I've kind of found nowadays, like, any game that's more than like 20 hours, it is a prayer if I'm gonna finish it. Like, I've really been seeking out games that are kind of like under that 20-hour mark to get from start to end, because I feel like that's a good enough time to, like, you know, get introduced to all the mechanics, really get an experience without having to feel like any kind of grind. But yeah, I think I put 60 or 70 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, and I just always come back for more, and it's just always like more and like new things and interesting things that you can find, and it's a really, really beautiful world that they built.
That makes sense with your Marvel Snap thing too, where you know, 5-minute games.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. I'm just really happy that you know, with Marvel Snap, I haven't burned out on it. It really is a game that I can keep coming back to, and I think a lot of it is being able to be like creative with deck building. It's like as far as like card games that you've played in the past, do you kind of like just find a deck and then build it and then play it, or do you kind of like experiment and do your own thing? I don't know if you've done too much outside of Magic.
In Magic, I was always building my own deck. That was the part of Magic I found fun, much more than playing the deck. It was building the deck, which is probably one of the reasons I gravitated toward playing online, because I could get the cards just by trading online. Didn't have to like go to an event or order anything or whatever. If I decided I didn't like them, I'd get rid of them again an hour later, which happens sometimes. So yeah, yeah, that's always appealed to me. I've never been a like download the best deck and play that sort of person.
Yeah, and I think that's very prevalent in games, and I think a lot of people really enjoy that. You know, they want to find a deck to play and get the experience of it. And I was never too much of a deck builder. Like I did a little bit when I was playing Hearthstone. I did some deck building, but I always just really like to kind of take other people's decks and maybe change like one or two things about it or things like that. But you know, being a content creator in Marvel Snap and you know being one of the first people to really go into it, I kind of had to become a deck builder because like
Sure.
it was kind of like pioneering some things and you know one of the first people to get access to certain cards and everything like that. And I think that aspect of it is really what's given it longevity for me because even you know the decks are really small. It's 12 cards and you can only have one of each card, so it's very trimmed down deck building from other things. But you know there's about 300 different cards out there, and there's always different ways that you can combine things and combine strategies that maybe aren't as popular to be able to like showcase them or show that you know I think a lot of people with card games get burnout whenever the meta has like 3 or 4 of like the best decks where it's like if you want to be as competitive as possible you kind of have to play one of these like 3 or 4 decks. And I've never really even when I wasn't deck building, I would like to find decks that were different when I was like net decking or finding other people's decks. And I think that that's a big thing that people can get stuck on with games is getting over that barrier of yeah maybe your you know win rate is going to be a couple percentage points lower, but the satisfaction of putting a deck together and seeing it succeed or seeing the things work is really, I think, the thing that has been able to give me longevity with being able to pick it up and continue to play it every single day on stream. Because you get to have that creativity, you get to, I don't know, I guess just do something different every single time, which is really fun, and it keeps things fresh, and it just really helps on the burnout side, I would say.
Winning is massively overrated too. Winning is one of the least important things in gaming, but is presented as one of the most important things in gaming.
Mm-hmm. Do you I feel like that's a person by person thing because there literally just are people who only have fun when they're winning and never have fun when they're losing. And I don't think I could be that kind of person. I talk, people ask me on stream a lot, you know, how do I have longevity? You know, things are going bad. I haven't been doing well this season. Like, how do I keep playing? One of the things that I always tell people is like, you have to learn to love losing in multiplayer games.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to find good things out of losing a game. Now, if you're super competitive, it can be you can keep it very technical and say, "Oh, I'm gonna find why I lost," and then try and incorporate that and make myself better. But I think that really just like finding appreciation for your opponent is important. Saying like you know if you get stomped by something that you weren't expecting, you know instead of being like oh that's BS, like that's unfair, saying like wow that was really awesome, like I can't believe they did that for you. That you know that person crushed it. That's great. And finding these ways to get joy out of it. So you know it's not a sum neutral. You know if you win 50% of the games and lose 50% of the games, the 50% of the games are good, 50% of the games you lose are bad, then that's like kind of net neutral your experience of playing that session. And it's very hard to get enjoyment out of it or to expect enjoyment out of a game when you 50% of the time you're playing it you're going to have bad feelings towards it. So I think that learning to love losing is probably one of the biggest lessons I try and I guess show to people, and not getting tilted and mad when you lose, but even just like audibly laughing if it's a fake laugh when you lose. Often I think can like help in like a really weird like mental way.
I came to this belief from poker.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a belief somewhat of necessity, because people would tell me that poker was a zero-sum game, and tell me that the only way that I could possibly be enjoying myself was if somebody else was not enjoying themselves, and stuff like this. And it's just completely wrong. But if you come into gaming with the idea that the only way to have fun is to win, it logically holds based on that premise. But the reality is that playing poker, like, a lot of the people playing poker are not solely interested in winning money. They're there to like socialize, to have fun, challenge themselves, to learn. There are all of the normal reasons that people play games that aren't for money still exist in poker. And yes, I have struggled through my life to explain that to people sometimes. And I wish that people thought more about that and about the assumption that they're making about what gaming is if they think that winning is the important part of playing a game. It's a pretty bleak assumption to make.
Yeah, it's hard. I've never really understood. I think it comes to different personality types and different ways that you think about things to an extent. But a lot of people just aren't open to it. You know, like a lot of people aren't open to experiencing things. So, for instance, in Marvel Snap, there's a location that swaps your deck with random cards and swaps you and your opponent's deck with random cards. And a lot of people say it's their least favorite location because they want to play with the cards in their deck. And I love it. I always get excited when I have those games because you don't know what's going to happen every time you know the turn passes and a card pops out of your deck. It changes your strategy. It changes what you want to do. Everything like that. And I think that you know when people complain about it and say, oh, it's like sick location, like, oh, this is terrible, worst location of the game, I just say let yourself be open to the fun of that side of it. Like if you're if that's your mindset, is that it's the worst location of the game and it's terrible, you know, like even if you like strongly believe that and you want to play with the exact cards that you put in your deck, even just allowing yourself to be open to the fun that a game like a something like that can happen in the game, and that's going to be part of it. It's not going to get taken away, right? It's part of the game. Like it's going to be there whether you like it or not. At least allowing yourself to be open to the experience and to be open about you know, finding fun and finding interesting lines that you can do about it. And you know, even if you end up losing, like laughing because your opponent got completely broken cards and you got terrible cards. It's just gonna help you not get burnt out, and it's gonna help you find more enjoyment. So just being open to that side of things, I think, is a big step for a lot of people. That they can make to open, and you know, maybe you get open to it and it ups your enjoyment just 1%, and you still hate it. I think that 1% is still important.
Yeah, we wake up in the morning for 1% here in strategy gaming. 1% repeated over the course of a year or something is a big number. It's a lot. Even though just those like little incremental changes in mindset can really help you. 100%. For instance, like in Slay the Spire, I never played this. I don't even know this character's name. But the Wanderer, is that right? This is a popular mod character named the Watcher. Yeah.
Is he a popular mod character?
Yes. The joke of this character is that it's balanced about as well as a mod character is. Yeah, this is the Watcher.
Yeah, like maybe you know, I could be open to playing, because I think I've literally played this character one time and I was like, this isn't comfy, I don't get it. But you know, like allowing myself to be more open and experience it can lead to more enjoyment through Slay the Spire. Maybe find, you know, maybe it's my favorite character, but I don't give it any kind of because it's not that comfy thing. It's not something that I give any attention to or care to. But trying to find different things like that, you know, at games, I think really opens things up for that.
Yeah, give the Watcher a go. Just fine. Just fine.
I see you put it on about 600 damage on what I think is maybe turn 1 here or turn 2. That seems pretty fun.
It's interesting. I think this character, on release, it was a lot weaker. And I think a problem with it, I think the devs would agree with me. I think a problem with it was that the way that you lost felt really bad, because the character is all about small combinations of like 2 or 3 or 4 cards working very well together. But there's so much variance in the game, so you don't have that much ability to guarantee that you're going to put those cards together. And So throughout development, all of the numbers on the cards just got buffed, so that even if the combo didn't come together, your deck was still functional. And the result is now you just kind of don't lose very much on the character, and when you win, you feel like a superhero. Because it used to be that you needed to put together this combo for your deck to work very well, and nowadays, like, even if you didn't put it together, your deck would still be pretty strong. When you put it together, you know, you're overpowered.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
It is interesting. There's, I mean, it's an example of a spot where the way that the character felt was more important to the balance of the game than whether it won or lost a lot, I think. Which happens sometimes. And in the single-player game, it's not symmetrical. So, like, it doesn't really matter if the character wins 50% of the time or some other number in a single-player game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure they try and, you know, obviously, when players feel super powerful and crush their game, it's a lot better than, you know, if they get sunk and get buried in Act 1 3 times in a row, and it's probably what I did, and then put down the character forever, so, yeah. It works out like that. Do you have, like, a 100% this is my favorite character in Spire?
No, I have a lot of appreciation for the game having different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And if it only had one character I could play, even if that character were my favorite, I would still like it a lot less than I do with it having the variety. The variety is what I keep coming back for.
Definitely. It's crazy how it's like keeping all the enemies balanced for 4 different, wildly different characters and strategies. It's something that's really. When was the last balance patch for Slay the Spire? It's like a crazy long time ago.
At least a year ago. Probably like a year and a half ago. I had to guess.
Have they said that they're never touching it again, or are they open to changing things again?
I think they've pretty much said that. When the game got released for Switch and phone, it became a lot harder to make changes to it, because there's so much porting and localizing and stuff like that to do on every single change.
Mm-hmm.
But there haven't been any significant changes since then.
Yeah, because it's probably on like 8 different consoles and PC and, you know, iOS and Android and everything like that. For sure,
it's on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think I owned it on 4 different things. I know I have it in PC, PlayStation, Switch, and Android, I think.
And they made it on. They made it in Java, under the mistaken belief that if you code something in Java somewhere, it will run on every platform, which just is not actually true, it turns out. I have just talked to Casey about all of this yesterday, so it is all fresh in my mind. I feel very like, oh yes, I know all about this right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard you, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but you mentioned being on Ridiculous Hats Hades podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a game that you have played a lot?
No, he had me on to talk about Orb of Creation.
Interesting.
You'd have to ask him why. I mean, it was because he and I both really liked Orb of Creation, and he wanted to talk to me about it, and he didn't want me on his Hearthstone podcast because it is very obviously not Hearthstone. He was like, we can just do it on this one.
It's crazy.
My understanding of it.
Hats went from like I think he had 5 podcasts at one point, now down to just a couple. Now he works with Hearthstone, which was I don't know. I think he might be my favorite Twitter person ever. He's just always like just responds in like 6 seconds whenever people like even mention him. It's he's a very interesting dude. I actually he was on I was on a Marvel Snap podcast with him around global launch last year, so I actually had the chance to have a conversation with him too, which was really, really cool. And it's just so cool seeing like you know him actually get a job at Hearthstone and find, you know, someone who has kind of been like one of the ipso facto like community managers to become like officially that. I think that was super amazing to see.
That was really cool to see. He and I go a very long way back, and he has always had that personality. And he has it in person as well, and yeah, super happy that he has found a sensible place for himself in the world of gaming. But I think what he's doing now is like does. He is very, very good at what he does right now.
100%.
In my opinion. I'm sure it's a very hard job.
Moderating a card gaming community?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so interesting seeing like that negativity in the space because Marvel Snap has the double down of being a mobile game, which does have some definitely dubious monetization practices, which is rough, and then also being a card game. So the community is it's really hard sometimes because I try and be I talk about like why I'm so positive about. People call me a shill all the time, and people, say all these things just because I think in general I tend to, I just tend to focus on the positives of things. Just
haters gonna hate.
For my mental health, if nothing else, because I think that focusing on negativity is a really, it's an easy train to get on because there's always something to be mad about. There's always something to be outraged about, and it causes a lot of emotion and. That's what a lot of people get out of online spaces. But positivity has always been something that's really important to me. And I had a big switch in my mindset, like a little bit after college. I think I used to be a much more negative person and, much less empathetic person. And trying to focus on positivity and empathy and having that be the focus of what I talk about. It's just something that's important for me, and I find it to be, honestly, I find it to lead to more interesting conversations in general. I think that just always trying to find something to hate on is boring, whereas if you're trying to find something to enjoy out of something, I think there's a lot more to be pulled out of that. But it's very weird being in a space that's a mobile game, card game, and being, a personality in it. And just having to deal with all these people all the time who are just doomers about everything and just complaining about every single thing that happens. While trying to, I used to be a lot more snippy about it. That's something that I've tried to pull back on a lot because I think I would fight fire with fire a little bit. And I've kind of learned it's never something that's good. But just trying to be a positive voice in that community to try and focus on things that are good, I think has always been something that I've wanted to do. And it's weird to, some people, like I said, they'll look at it and like say like, oh, I'm shill, or like, oh, I don't want to focus on the negatives because I'm invested in the game. And I am, like there is obviously a bias that I have towards the game's success. But I do just think that the focusing on the positives of things is, like it just leads to more interesting conversations. And it's, I think it's better for everyone's mental health to be honest when things are really bad and be open about that when it is something that's really not good. But just in general, trying to focus on the positives has always been something that's kept my mind in the right place in this space.
I think kind of definitionally hating something can't really bring you positive joy. Saying that I don't like jazz music is never going to make me enjoy music. Like, if I can instead say, like, jazz music's not usually my thing, but I found, like, a couple of musicians in there that I actually really like, and there's this, like, fusion band that does some jazz with some other stuff that I like a lot, too, then I'm actually enjoying something. Whereas if I'm just saying I hate jazz music, like, well, that's just a dead end in my life. So, yeah, I think that that's really important. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this week. I think that that's a really good way to wind down the year, is to take some time to be grateful for the good stuff that happened. Because, I mean, we sure hear a hell of a lot about all of the bad stuff that happens if we are in any online space. That is something that you're going to hear about over and over again. That's like one of the reasons that I wrote a book, honestly, was that there were conversations that come up every like 3 months in online spaces where I was like, well, we just had this conversation 3 months ago. Do you not remember what we worked out about it? Does nobody remember? And like, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people are having the conversation for the first time. A lot of people didn't learn the lesson when it came up last time. And it's like, well, this is going to happen every 3 months of my life for the foreseeable future. I would like to have a really good answer to it written down that I can point people to, so I don't have to have the conversation over and over again and lose my mind. Yeah. May says hating has brought her much joy. I think liking gossip is a bit different from hating.
Everyone likes to sip the tea now and again. Everyone likes to sip the tea. I mean, I think it's the biggest negative to online algorithms is that
Mm-hmm.
outrage brings more engagement. The algorithm
Yep.
doesn't care about positivity or negativity. It cares
Mm-hmm.
about engagement and keeping your eyes focused.
Yeah.
So I feel like people feel that the world's a lot more outraged and angry than it actually is at any point because of what they're seeing all the time. Which is it's always important to have that reminder of that's why, right?
Yeah. I am winding down for the evening. Do you
Okay.
have anything in particular that stands out to you as like a really great thing that happened in your life this year? Gaming or online spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably I mean, obviously, like moving into full time and being able to secure saying that I'm comfortable being a full time content creator is a dream that I think a lot of people have, and I try and pinch myself every single day. And
Mm-hmm.
getting to that point where I've created a business and that business can sustain me and sustain our household and not put me in the point where I'm in any bad situation is something that's an unbelievably amazing thing that has happened in my life this year that I never ever thought could happen. So I mean, I think that as far as like an overarching thing, that's just amazing, and it was never something that was the point of getting into online content creation. It was I just have to consider myself lucky and happy that people keep showing up and that this is something that I can keep doing. But as far as like a specific thing, as a very casual gamer, I've never been watched for Marvel Snap as like the best person out there. I'm more just like most people watch me for my personality and building interesting and different decks and everything like that. But the beginning of this year, they had the first ever official tournament for Marvel Snap, and they brought 20 content creators all together. And everyone in your like community could like vote for you and get access to like an exclusive variant of a card in the game that kind of signifies you. And I kind of went into it being one of the big underdogs that no one would talk about for winning it. And I just had this amazing moment where it was kind of this interesting like speed run type tournament where we weren't playing against each other. We were all playing in this mode in Marvel
Sure.
Snap where
Trying to get
you
as many
try and
points as you could in 2 hours or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and there was like a speed run with it, and you have to win 5 times in a row to complete it, and I did that one time, and I was like in like third or fourth place, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I looked at the timer and I said, well, if I snap and double down on turn one every single turn or every single game immediately, I can maybe squeak out one more run. And I went and I like had the most insane stretch of 5 games snapping on turn one every single time and ended up finishing like right before the time to get the time that ended up winning the tournament. So against like 19 other content creators that
That was
somebody
pretty
came in as
cool.
like a huge underdog. I had just this beautiful moment with me and my community of watching just like this unfolding circumstance of events to lead to me winning that tournament, which was absolutely amazing. So that was as far as like a personal thing, that was just an absolutely insane experience that I was able to have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, yeah, just really helped me continue to enjoy the game.
I had a tournament kind of like that from MTG Arena Twitch Rivals. They had a
Yeah.
pro and a casual player teamed up with each other,
Hmm.
and I was Caleb D MTG's casual player. I'm gonna rate him after this stream, assuming that he's live. I don't know if he is yet or not. And so he invited me to be his partner, and he had me on the easy decks. Basically, we had a pool of decks we could play, and he was like, "Play these ones; they're pretty easy to pilot." And I was going along with it until we got toward the end of the tournament, and then I was just like, no, I'm going to start playing the hard decks now. I played a lot
Hmm.
of Magic 15 years ago. I kind of vaguely remember how it works. I didn't know any of the cards. So I was like reading the cards as I went and often having to make a play before I finished reading them because you're on a timer in MTG Arena, you know?
Hmm.
And for the finals of the losers bracket, he and I both play a game against the other team. I'm playing against their casual player. He's playing against their pro, and we tied. I won and he lost. I think. I think so. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, and for the tiebreaker, one of us played against one of them, and so they sent out their pro, of course. But I was like, nah, Caleb, you're gonna let me play it. And it was for like $100, so not a huge,
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of money, but like not $0. He was like, I just don't think that's really the right play. But eventually he let me coin flip him for it, and I won the coin flip, so I was allowed to go. And he was like, okay, you're gonna play the mono red aggro deck. That's my request. And I was like, I'm gonna play the most complicated deck uh, in the deck pool. So I did, and I played against like pro Magic player, like a real person who read all the cards before the tournament and knew what they all did. And I punted horrifically in front of a large live audience 3 times, and I still won.
Oh my gosh,
that
that's
was
amazing.
that was just one of the funniest tournament experiences that I've ever had. It's also such a like I used to struggle so much with competition in games. I just did
Mm-hmm.
not like it, could not work out how to enjoy it. It was all about winning to me and all about making the right plays, and I'd get really hard on myself if I didn't make the right plays than if I didn't win. I think I was always
Sure.
pretty good about being okay with losing if I felt like I was playing well, but if I didn't feel like I was playing well, I was usually pretty upset with myself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just so refreshing to see that I have gotten through that part of my life and I can just like playing games now.
That's why I'm really happy that you found that. That's an awesome just forcing your partner to let you go out and play is so good. I absolutely love that, man. And yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that a lot today, but I think that yeah, loving losing and being okay with going out there and being competitive, but having fun with it, win or lose, um, is so important. And I'm happy that you found that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to raid Caleb. Thank you for joining me, Binks. This has been great. Do you want to plug your stuff in chat? Twitch and YouTube?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, through my links, if you guys watch Marvel Snap, I do daily uploads on YouTube with different decks and everything like that. And you can check me out on my Twitch channel there as well. But Jorbs, thank you so much for having me on, man. It was an absolute pleasure, and this was a wonderful conversation. I'm really
Yeah.
happy that we got to have this.
Yeah. Great to meet you. Have a
Great
good
to
one.
meet you as well. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll be around for the rest of the streams.
Oh, thanks. All right. Bye bye.
Cheers.
All right, chatters. It's time for me to go have dinner.